What you're about to hear is not fiction. It's the true account of a world that exists right now, hidden within the forests of Northern California, where thousands of men live a reality most of us will never comprehend. When was the last time you saw a tree? For one man, the answer is 8 years. Welcome back, night wanderers. Let your body sink deeper into comfort now, releasing the weight of the day as we explore this profound and sobering story together. A tale that, while serious in nature, will be told with the quiet reverence it deserves as you drift towards sleep. This is a journey into the architecture of solitude itself, a descent into a world without time, without touch, and without the sky, to discover what a man must build inside himself when the world outside has been completely taken away. This is the story of what happens to the human mind when it is locked away from the world, a place built to hold the men society has decided to forget, a place known as Pelican Bay, where the redwoods cast no shadow. In the far north of California, where the great sequoia trees reach for the sky like silent, patient gods, there lies a place hidden from the sun. It is not a valley, nor a canyon, but a scar carved into the earth by human hands, a kingdom of concrete known as Pelican Bay. The forest that surrounds it is a cathedral of stillness, a realm of deep green and patient shadow, where some trees have stood for more than 2,000 years, their lifespans measured in millennia, not seasons. They have watched empires rise and fall, felt the turning of 100 generations, and have grown immense in their long, quiet vigil. The air beneath their boughs is cool and smells of damp earth and deep time, a scent that is both ancient and alive. Mist clings to their colossal, reddish-brown trunks and ancient branches, and the light that filters through their high canopy is soft and sacred, as if passing through the stained glass of a forgotten world. These colossal beings, the tallest on earth, stand as sentinels, their roots sunk deep into the soil, their crowns touching the clouds, drinking from the fog that rolls in from the nearby coast. They are the keepers of a peace that is older than memory, a silence that speaks of eternity itself, a profound and undisturbed tranquility that seems to belong to another, slower age of the world. They are a living testament to endurance, to a life force so patient and so powerful that it makes the frantic pace of human existence seem like a fleeting and distant dream. And yet, here, in their midst, lies the wound, a geometric gash of pale grey, a world of straight lines and sharp angles set against the forest's ancient, organic curves. Pelican Bay State Prison does not borrow from the landscape. It defies it. Its walls are high and stark, their surfaces smooth and featureless, designed to offer no handhold, no purchase for escape. Its fences are woven with silver wire that seems to drink the light from the air, a shimmering web of containment that glitters coldly in the sun. From above, it looks like a strange, bleached fossil, the skeleton of some long-extinct creature of geometry, a monument to an order that has no place in the natural world. Its name is an irony born of geography, suggesting a gentle cove, a place of sanctuary where tired vessels might find rest. But this is not a harbor for the weary. It is the end of the line, a place where society sends the men it has decided to forget, a repository for stories that have reached their final, violent chapter. Within its walls, there is no sense of the ocean's breath that stirs the high branches of the redwoods, no sign of the great trees that stand just beyond its perimeter. It is a self-contained world, hermetically sealed, a bubble of pure human design, sealed away not only from the society that built it, but from the very earth upon which it rests. The ground inside is concrete and asphalt. The sky is framed by razor wire. It is an island of absolute artifice in a sea of ancient nature. 3,500 souls live within this concrete kingdom, their lives unfolding in the long, slow rhythm of incarceration. They are dangerous men who have committed acts of such violence that they are considered a permanent threat to the world outside. They are sentenced to lengthy terms, often for the remainder of their natural lives, and they carry with them the heavy knowledge that they are unlikely to ever leave this place. The life they live is marked by a tension that never fully subsides, a low, constant hum of sorrow and anger that permeates the air like a fever. It is a world governed by unwritten codes, by allegiances forged in shared desperation and old rivalries that have been carried from distant streets into these sealed corridors. The clashes that occur here are not battles of armies, but eruptions of personal despair, a language of scars spoken in the exercise yards and the cell blocks. It is the settling of old accounts in whispers and sudden, brutal gestures, a constant, quiet war fought for respect in a world that offers none. Every glance, every word, every movement is weighed and measured, for a mistake can have swift and lasting consequences. Since the first gate was sealed and the first men walked these long, echoing halls, 18 detainees have drawn their last breath within these walls. Some were lost to the quiet despair that can settle in the soul, a slow fading of the will to live in a place so devoid of hope. But most fell in the sudden, sharp violence that is the final currency of this realm, their stories ending in a flash of desperate, final conflict. 5 of them fell not to the hands of their rivals, but to the swift judgment of the guards who watch from the towers, their rifles a last resort against a chaos that must always be contained. Each week, this containment is tested as the governors of the prison uncover weapons born of quiet ingenuity and desperate intent. They are fashioned from the mundane objects of a sealed world, a spoon sharpened for weeks against a concrete floor until its edge is like a razor, its handle wrapped in cloth for a better grip, a comb with its teeth broken and honed into a fine, sharp point capable of piercing flesh, a piece of a plastic chair melted by a hidden spark and molded into a handle, its blade a shard of metal prized from the frame of a bed. These objects are kept by the prison's lieutenants, not as trophies of conquest, but as artifacts of a long and weary war. They are laid out in quiet, secure rooms, a silent museum of desperate invention. They are reminders of the ceaseless effort required to keep order in a place built to hold disorder. The men who keep watch over this place handle these objects with care, for they know the secret places in which they are kept, hidden away in the body's own dark hollows, wrapped in plastic and silence until the moment they are needed. They are a testament to the human will to resist, to arm itself, even when there is no longer a world left to conquer. The guards understand that every object, no matter how harmless it may seem, can be transformed by a determined mind. A rolled-up magazine can become a club, a bar of soap in a sock, a bludgeon, a simple pen, a piercing tool. This is the logic of a world stripped to its barest essentials, where survival depends not on what a thing is, but on what it can be made to do. The constant search for these items is a ritual, a necessary and unending part of the daily dance of control and resistance. This constant state of watchfulness, this low and steady hum of violence, created a need for something more. It became clear that for some men, these high walls and guarded towers were not enough. A place was needed for those who could not be contained even by this fortress, for those whose actions demonstrated an inability to live even within the violent society of the prison itself. A place of deeper silence and more profound isolation was required, a final layer of containment for the uncontainable. And so, within the fortress, another was built, a heart of concrete buried deep within the outer shell, a structure designed to hold not just the body, but the mind itself. A prison within the prison, where the rules of an already harsh world would be rewritten into something even more severe, more absolute, and more silent. A prison within a prison. Every fortress has a keep. Every labyrinth has a center. At Pelican Bay, this inner sanctum is a place feared by all, a world unto itself known only as the SHU, the Security Housing Unit. It is a name spoken in low tones, an acronym that carries a weight far beyond its simple letters. It is a place that exists more in the imagination of the general population than as a physical destination, a ghost story told in the yard, a rumor of a deeper confinement, a warning of the final consequence for a life that refuses to bend. For most of the 3,500 men here, it is a spectre, a final dark pit at the bottom of the prison hierarchy. To be sent to the SHU is to be exiled a second time, not from the world of cities and towns, but from the world of the prison itself. It is to be deemed too volatile, too broken, or too dangerous for a society already composed of the dangerous and the broken. It is a place of last resort, a final, quiet room at the end of a long, dark hall, a destination from which very few return. Viewed from the silent altitude of a passing bird, the SHU reveals its form. It is a stark white cross, an X shape pressed into the earth, its lines clean and unforgiving. A piece of abstract geometry laid upon the scarred land. It lies apart from the main buildings, connected by a single sterile corridor, yet distinct. A satellite of solitude orbiting the larger world of the prison. The pale concrete of its roof is a blank page on which the sun writes the slow-passing story of the day, a canvas unmarked by any chimney, window, or sign of the life contained within. It is an architecture of pure function, an exercise in geometry designed for one purpose: to hold, to separate, to erase. Around its perimeter runs a fence, a delicate-looking thing of silver wire that glitters in the morning light, almost beautiful in its simplicity. But this is not a boundary meant to be tested. It is a lethal barrier, a silver thread humming with a silent, final warning. It does not shout its power with barbs or blades, but with a quiet, invisible energy that promises a swift and certain end. To touch it is to complete a circuit, to become one with the current, to cease. This fence is the outer membrane of this inner kingdom, the line between the merely imprisoned and the truly entombed. It is the final, non-negotiable border of this world. The SHU is just 100 meters from the main buildings of Pelican Bay, a short walk across a stretch of cleared, barren land. But this short distance is a chasm, a dramatic and irreversible change of regime. The journey from one to the other is a crossing of a profound threshold. In the general population cells, there are windows, narrow slits of reinforced glass that allow a view of a patch of sky, a glimpse of a cloud, a sliver of the moon. It is a small connection to the world, but a connection nonetheless. It is a reminder that there is a world, a sky that is not a ceiling, a distance that is not a wall. In the security housing unit, there are no windows. The world outside vanishes completely. The sky becomes a memory, the sun a rumor. The design of this place is an act of sensory deprivation, a slow and methodical erasure of the universe, a turning inward of the architecture until it has no relationship with the world beyond its own walls. It is a sealed system, a world unto itself, where the only light is the flat, constant glow of artificial fixtures. Within these windowless walls, the inmates have only verbal access to one another. Their cells are arranged in such a way that they can hear the disembodied voices of others, the shouts, the whispers, the murmurings that drift through the steel vents, but they never see another inmate's face. The human form is removed from their world, replaced by sound alone. They live in a community of ghosts, surrounded by echoes, their only visual contact with humanity being the brief, silent passage of the guards. This design is deliberate, a core tenet of the philosophy that governs this place. It is believed that sight fuels conflict, that a shared glance can ignite old hatreds, that the very presence of another can be a spark in the volatile air of confinement. And so, sight is taken away. The world is reduced to a concrete box and the voices that haunt it. It is a state of being that is closer to a sensory experiment than a traditional form of imprisonment, an attempt to see what remains of a man when he is left with nothing but his own thoughts and the disembodied sounds of his unseen neighbors. This auditory world is a strange and often maddening symphony of human noise, stripped of the context of faces and bodies. The journey into this place is a quiet one. There is no ceremony, no grand procession. It is a simple walk, escorted by guards, down a long corridor that leads from one reality to the next. The air changes, growing stiller, cooler. The sounds of the main prison, the distant clang of a gate, the murmur of 1,000 conversations, the shout from an exercise yard, fade away, replaced by a profound and humming silence. This is the true change of regime, the shift from a world of noise to a world of quiet. It is a quiet that is not peaceful, but heavy, weighted with the years of solitude that stretch ahead. The walk is short, measured in footsteps, perhaps only a minute or two in duration. But the distance it covers is one of a lifetime, a final passage into a realm of pure geometry and stillness, where the long, slow work of unraveling begins, and the memory of a human face begins its slow and patient fade. The corridors of unseeing. The journey into the SHU is a journey into silence. The air grows still, the light thins, and the world is remade into long white corridors where a man may walk for years and never see another's face. It begins with the sound of a heavy door, a sound different from all the others in the prison. It does not clang with the familiar, jarring echo of the cell blocks. It closes with a soft, hydraulic hiss, a sigh of compressed air that seals the world behind, cleanly and completely. With that sound, the chaotic symphony of the general population fades away. The distant shouts from the yard, the clatter of trays in the mess hall, the low and constant murmur of 1,000 lives lived in close quarters. All of it is erased, replaced by a new sound. The sound of nothing. It is a quiet so profound that one can hear the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, a steady, unwavering note that will become the new soundtrack to existence. This is the first lesson of the SHU. The world can be switched off. The noise, the chaos, the unpredictable energy of human interaction can be silenced with the press of a button. The corridors themselves are exercises in stark and brutal minimalism. They are long, straight, and painted a shade of white that seems to absorb all warmth, all color, all life. The floors are polished concrete, reflecting the flat, even light from the ceiling, creating an illusion of walking on a frozen lake, a surface with no texture and no end. There are no corners to hide in, no alcoves to offer respite from the long, institutional gaze. There is only the long, relentless perspective of the hallway, stretching forward into a vanishing point, a perfect illustration of a future that contains no turns, no surprises, only more of the same. The architecture is a language, and it speaks of control, of observation, of the complete absence of privacy, even in a world of total isolation. The walls are not passive structures, they are designed to swallow sound. A shout here does not echo, it dies, absorbed into the dense material, a fleeting disturbance in the prevailing quiet. The doors that line these halls are solid steel, flush with the walls, their surfaces broken only by a small rectangular slot near the bottom, a mouth that will open only to offer food, and a number painted in stark black stencil. To walk these corridors is to participate in a slow and solemn procession. The newly arrived inmate is escorted by 2 guards, one in front, one behind. They do not speak. Their movements are practiced and economical, their steps falling into a rhythm with the silence, a soft, shuffling cadence on the smooth floor. The inmate himself is often still, his senses overwhelmed by the sudden absence of stimulation, his mind trying to adjust to this new, sterile reality. He sees only the back of the guard before him and the long, white emptiness ahead. He is moving through a space that is fundamentally alien to human experience, a place without texture, without shadow, without change. The light is always the same, a constant, shadowless noon that never fades into dusk or brightens into dawn. Time, in these corridors, has lost its anchor to the sun and the moon. It has become a fluid, abstract thing, a river without a current, a sea without a tide. The operation of this place is governed from a room the inmates will never see. A central control booth, the nerve center of the X-shaped building, watches over all movement through a network of cameras. From this quiet, removed place, an unseen hand operates the doors. A guard in the corridor will speak into a radio, a calm, coded request, and far away, a button is pressed. A heavy steel door will slide open with another soft hiss, and then slide shut behind them, sealing one section from the next. The system is designed to minimize human interaction, to turn the act of passage into an impersonal, mechanical process. There is no jangling of keys, no fumbling with locks. There is only the voice in the radio and the silent, obedient response of the machine. This is how the place breathes. In controlled, segmented inhalations of movement, one corridor at a time, one man at a time. It is a world where human presence has been distilled to its most essential, and most monitored form. The man in the control booth is a ghost, his power absolute, but his presence unfelt. As the procession continues deeper into the heart of the structure, the feeling of finality grows. This is not a temporary journey. It is a relocation of the soul. The man being escorted is leaving behind not just freedom, but the very concept of a shared world. He is walking toward a room that will become his entire universe, a concrete box that will contain all his days and nights for years, perhaps for the rest of his life. The guards who lead him are not his captors in the traditional sense. They are more like ferrymen, guiding him across a final river into a land of stillness. They are the last human faces he will see up close for a very long time. Soon, they too will become figures seen only through a narrow slot, their presence reduced to a pair of hands, a tray of food, a disembodied voice. The journey down this hallway is a slow stripping away of the familiar, a gradual preparation for a life of profound and lasting solitude. Finally, the walk ends. The procession stops before a single, numbered door, identical to all the others. The guard speaks into his radio one last time. The steel door slides open, revealing a small grey space within. The room is empty, a perfect cube of concrete, furnished with a concrete slab for a bed, a concrete shelf, and a stainless steel toilet and sink, all fused to the walls. It is a cell, but it is also a tomb, a sanctuary, an altar of solitude. The inmate steps inside. The door slides shut behind him, the hiss of its closing now a sound of absolute finality. He is alone. The footsteps of the guards recede down the long white hall, their sound swallowed by the walls, until there is only the hum of the lights once more. Here, in this sealed room, a new clock begins to tick, one measured not in hours, but in heartbeats, in breaths, and in the quiet, patient turning of the mind against itself. The coming of the plate. In this kingdom of solitude, time is not marked by the sun or moon, but by small, unvarying rituals. The most sacred of these is the coming of the meal, a silent offering passed through a slot in a steel door. It is the one event that reliably punctuates the long, seamless expanse of the day, a predictable tide in an ocean of stillness. Without it, the hours would blur into a single, unending grayness, a waking dream from which there is no escape. The anticipation is not one of hunger, though that may be present, but of change. It is the quiet certainty that something is about to happen, that the humming silence will be briefly disturbed by a new rhythm, a new presence, a sign that the world outside the cell is still in motion. The body learns this rhythm, the mind attunes to it, and the entire being settles into a state of quiet expectation as the appointed hour draws near, a form of internal clock set by the institution's unchanging schedule. The ritual begins with a sound, distant at first, then growing steadily closer, a subtle shift in the acoustic texture of the corridor. It is the soft whisper of rubber wheels on polished concrete, the gentle rattle of a metal cart making its slow journey down the long, white corridor of Block C12. The sound is not jarring, it is methodical, almost soothing in its predictability. It is the sound of purpose, of a system in motion, the heartbeat of the institution made audible. 2 prison guards guide the cart, their movements synchronized by years of repetition. They walk with a calm, deliberate pace, their faces impassive, their hands moving with a practiced economy. There are no wasted motions, no exchanged glances, no spoken words. They are participants in a silent ballet of procedure, their roles perfectly defined, their actions stripped of all but the essential. They are not men delivering food. They are stewards of a ceremony, the keepers of the one clock that still runs in this timeless place. Their quiet efficiency is a part of the architecture of control, a demonstration of the system's flawless and impersonal nature. At a distance behind them, a third guard follows. He walks with the same measured pace, but he does not touch the cart. He carries a shotgun held in a low, ready position, its dark form a stark contrast to the white walls, a single sharp note of black in a world of pale grey. He is not a part of the delivery itself, but a silent watcher, a guardian of the ritual. His presence is not an act of aggression, but one of absolute caution. He is a fixed point of vigilance, a statue ensuring that the fragile order of this ceremony remains unbroken. He is a part of the architecture of the place, as permanent and unmoving as the concrete walls, his gaze sweeping the corridor, seeing everything and nothing. The authorities believe that the men behind these doors are dangerous psychopaths, and that to gather them in one room would be to invite a storm. And so, even this simple act of sustenance is overseen by the potential for final force, a quiet and constant reminder of the power that holds this world together. As the cart arrives at the first cell, the two guards pause. One reaches down and takes a plastic plate from the stack. There is no clatter of ceramic, no glint of silver. The plates are a dull, functional plastic, designed to be harmless, unable to be broken into a sharp edge. The food upon them is simple, measured, the same for every man, a portion calculated for sustenance and nothing more. The guard kneels, his movements fluid and precise, a gesture that might, in another context, seem like one of reverence. He slides the plate through the narrow slot at the bottom of the steel door. The inmate inside, a shadow on the other side of the wall, reaches through to take it. There is no contact, no exchange of words. There is only the brief, silent transaction, a hand appearing, a plate disappearing. Then the guard stands, the cart moves on to the next door, and the ritual is repeated. 50 times this happens, down one side of the corridor and up the other. 50 plates pass through 50 slots, a brief 10-minute ballet of steel and plastic, a silent and efficient distribution of life's most basic necessity. Inside the cells, the men eat with their bare hands. The absence of cutlery is another layer of the system's logic, another variable of potential danger removed from the equation. The act of eating becomes a primal, sensory experience, a direct connection between hand and mouth, unmediated by any tool. In the profound silence of his cell, a man is left alone with his meal. The sounds are small, intimate, the tearing of bread, the movement of a hand to the mouth, the soft sound of chewing. For these few minutes, the world is reduced to the simple animal act of taking nourishment. It is a moment of grounding, a brief return to the fundamental realities of the body in a place that is designed to elevate the torments of the mind. It is a small, quiet island of physical sensation in an ocean of abstract thought and memory. When the last plate has been delivered, the cart is empty. The two guards turn and begin their slow walk back down the corridor, their purpose fulfilled. The armed guard follows, his vigil complete. The sound of the wheels begins to fade, growing fainter and fainter until it is once again consumed by the humming silence of the lights. The ritual is over. The tide has receded, leaving behind only the quiet aftermath. Behind 50 steel doors, 50 men finish their meals in solitude. The plates will be collected later, in another silent, methodical pass. For now, there is only the stillness, the return to the long, empty hours. The one certain marker of the day has passed, and time once again dissolves, stretching forward into a grey and unbroken horizon, until the next quiet rattle announces its return. The watchers in the white halls. To stand watch over a world of silence is to become a part of it. The guards of the SHU move through the corridors, not with force, but with a quiet, practiced caution, for they know the air itself is heavy with unseen things. They are the keepers of the keys, the human gears in a vast and silent machine, their lives also governed by the same rigid schedules and sterile environments. Their uniforms are crisp, their faces are schooled in a kind of neutral calm, a necessary mask in a place where emotion is a dangerous currency, a vulnerability that cannot be afforded. They do not walk with the heavy, authoritative tread of soldiers on patrol. They glide, their soft-soled shoes making little sound on the polished concrete, their presence announced only by the faint jingle of a key that is never used. They have learned to read the silence, to interpret its subtle shifts and textures. They can distinguish the low hum of the ventilation system from the fainter, almost imperceptible murmur of a man talking to himself in a distant cell. They know the difference between the quiet of sleep and the quiet of despair, the silence of patience and the silence of a mind beginning to unravel. Their work is a long and patient vigil, a series of repetitive tasks that carry an immense and unspoken weight. They are not here to punish, for the punishment is the place itself, the concrete, the steel, the silence. They are here to manage, to maintain a delicate and precarious equilibrium between absolute control and the unpredictable nature of the human spirit. They are the only human contact the inmates will have, and yet that contact is governed by a strict set of protocols designed to keep a profound and necessary distance. They do not engage in conversation. They speak in clear, direct commands or simple statements of fact. Their role is to be a presence, not a person. A presence that represents order, procedure, and the unyielding reality of the walls. This emotional distance is a form of armor, a way to navigate a world saturated with a quiet, concentrated sorrow without being consumed by it. They see the slow erosion of time on a human soul, and they must learn to watch it without flinching, to record it in their logs as a simple observation, and to continue their rounds. One of the most telling details of their existence is that within the corridors of the SHU, the guards are usually unarmed. They do not carry firearms. This is not an oversight, but a calculated decision, a paradox at the heart of this high-security world. In a place filled with the most volatile individuals in the prison system, the guards are made intentionally vulnerable. The logic is one of preemptive defense. A firearm in the close and confined spaces of a cell block represents a prize, a potential key to a violent and catastrophic escape. A guard with a gun could become a hostage, and a hostage a bargaining chip. By removing the weapon, the institution removes the incentive. The guards are therefore forced to rely on other tools, the architecture itself, the reinforced steel doors, the remote locking mechanisms, and their own disciplined calm. They are safer because they are, in a sense, defenseless, their authority resting not in the power to end a life, but in their absolute control over the environment, the food, the water, the light, the very air itself. Yet there are moments when even the architecture is not enough. For some men, the isolation becomes a crucible, forging their despair into a strange and desperate language. When words are no longer possible, when the only way to communicate is to lash out, they use the only tools they have. In some cases, this means using their own bodies, their own waste, as a means of assault, as projectiles of rage and defiance. It is a primal scream made visible, a final, desperate attempt to make contact, however violent, with the world outside their cell. In response to this, the institution has adapted. Some cells in Block C12 are not made of concrete and steel alone. They have an inner wall of thick, transparent plexiglass. It is a clear barrier that allows for observation while preventing anything from being thrown at the guards. This is not a cage in the traditional sense. It is a somber acknowledgement of a complete breakdown in communication. It is the final word in a dialogue of desperation, a transparent wall that says, "I can see you, but you cannot reach me." The man inside becomes a specimen in a jar, his humanity visible but untouchable. And so, the guards stand watch, their vigilance a constant, low-level hum. They are not merely looking for infractions of the rules, for hidden weapons or signs of overt aggression. They are watching for something far more subtle. They are watching for the quiet, internal unraveling of the self. They are the first to notice when a man stops eating, when he stops responding to his name, when he ceases his daily ritual of pacing and begins to simply sit, staring at a blank wall for hours, for days. They are the unwilling witnesses to the slow and silent process of a mind letting go, of a consciousness beginning to drift away from the anchor of reality. Their job is to observe, to report, to ensure that the body is kept alive even as the spirit may be fading. They are the guardians of a fragile and flickering light, and they know how easily that light can be extinguished by the profound and heavy darkness of this place. They are the watchers in the white halls, and what they watch for, more than anything else, is the slow and silent breaking of men, a process as quiet and inevitable as the settling of dust in an empty room. When the mind runs away, there is a quiet danger that settles in a room with no windows. After years of seeing nothing but concrete walls, a man begins to question if the world outside was ever real at all. The mind, starved of new sights, new sounds, new textures, will begin to feed on itself. It will turn inward, searching through the long, dusty archives of memory for something, anything, to break the monotony of the present. At first, this is a comfort. The past becomes a vivid and welcoming country. The faces of loved ones, the taste of a forgotten meal, the feeling of sunlight on the skin. These things return with a clarity that is almost more real than the grey room in which the body sits. The mind can conjure a perfect summer day, the smell of cut grass, the sound of distant laughter, and for a few precious moments, the man is there, free and whole. But over time, the line between memory and reality begins to blur. The past is no longer a place one visits. It becomes the place where one lives. The concrete cell becomes the dream, and the sunlit memories become the waking world. This is the slow and silent unraveling. It is not a sudden, violent break, but a gradual, almost peaceful drifting. The anchor that tethers a man to the shared reality of time and space begins to fray. He is a ship whose mooring line has been slowly, imperpetuously cut, and he begins to float away on a vast and silent sea of his own consciousness. In one of these rooms, a man named Fernando Medina has been floating on that sea for 17 years. He was sentenced to life for the crime of murder, and for 17 years, the security housing unit has been his entire world. When he is brought out of his cell for a rare interview or a transfer, he is not only kept at a good distance, but he is also chained, a physical manifestation of the deep and layered caution that surrounds him. He is a man who has lived so long in this inner kingdom that the world of men has become a foreign land, and he a visitor who must be carefully managed, his every move anticipated. He is a man who now asks the quiet, unanswerable questions that bloom in the deep silence of a solitary life. Has this long confinement taken something from him? Has it altered the very shape of his mind? Is there a part of him that is now damaged in some fundamental way? He admits with a quiet resignation that he does not know. He has become a stranger to himself, unable to see his own reflection in the mirrorless walls of his cell. He can only look at others, and he has watched over the long, slow passage of the years as other men have snapped. He has heard it through the vents, the subtle shift in a neighbor's voice from coherent words to a low, constant mumbling. He has noted the sudden cessation of a daily routine, the man who paced for 5 hours every day and then, one day, simply stopped. He has seen it in the eyes of men being escorted down the hall, a hollowness, a vacancy, a look that suggests the person is no longer home, that the body is walking, but the mind is somewhere else entirely. The snapping he speaks of is not the stuff of drama. It is a quiet implosion. It is the moment when a man lets the time get to him, when the great slow weight of the years finally crushes the delicate architecture of the self. He has seen individuals who, one day, simply shut down. They refuse to participate in the program of existence. They stop speaking. They stop moving. They will just sit there in their cell all day, their eyes fixed on the pale grey wall, their gaze unfocused, as if looking at a screen on which a film that only they can see is playing. They let their minds run away with them, galloping off into the landscapes of memory or madness, leaving the body behind like an empty vessel, a shell from which the living creature has departed. It is a form of escape, perhaps the only one that is truly possible from this place. It is a journey inward from which there is sometimes no return, a final, silent retreat into the labyrinth of the self. This state is not a sudden affliction, but a slow, creeping tide. It is the result of letting go, of ceasing the daily, exhausting work of holding oneself together against the immense, crushing pressure of the silence and the solitude. It is a deterioration, a slow and patient erosion of the will. Fernando Medina understands this process intimately, for he has felt its pull. He has known the temptation to simply close his eyes and allow the current to take him, to give up the fight and surrender to the grey. He knows that to survive here, one must actively resist the silence, must fight against the temptation to simply close one's eyes and drift. To let go is to be lost. To surrender to the grey is to become a part of it, another ghost in a hall of ghosts, another body sitting motionless in a concrete room. And so, the quiet battle is waged every day, in every cell. It is a fight to remember who you are when there is nothing and no one to remind you. It is the struggle to maintain a sense of self in a world designed to dissolve it. It is the daily act of waking up and deciding, one more time, to remain present, to stay anchored to the small, hard realities of the room. For some, the silence is a void that consumes them, a quiet and patient predator. But for others, in other rooms, that same silence becomes a canvas. It becomes a space in which a different kind of life, a life of fierce and quiet discipline, can be built hour by painstaking hour, a fortress of the mind to hold back the encroaching sea. The ghost of C Block. In one cell, like all the others, lives a man named Eddie Mills. His story, like the stories of all who dwell here, began long before these walls were built. But it is here that it will find its end. He is a fixture in this place of stillness, a quiet and constant presence in a world where presence is defined by a number on a steel door. His movements are small, contained within the few square feet of his concrete room. He has been here for 11 years, a length of time that has softened the sharp edges of his past, leaving behind only the smooth, worn stone of his present reality. He is not a man who rages against the walls. He has become a part of their silence, a ghost in the machine, a consciousness that haunts this small, grey space. His existence a quiet and steady hum in the background of the institution. He has learned the language of this place, which is a language of absolute quiet, of minimal movement, of a life lived almost entirely inside the confines of his own mind. The story that brought him here was written in a different, harsher ink. It was a life of violent hold-ups, 7 of them, each a tear in the fabric of the world outside, a series of choices that led him down a narrowing path. It was a life bound by the codes of a neo-Nazi gang, an allegiance that followed him from the streets into the layered, violent world of the prison system. And it was here, in the broader, more chaotic world of Pelican Bay's general population, that his old life reached its final, sharp conclusion. There was a conflict, a dispute with another inmate that was settled not with words, but with a blade, an act of violence that, in the eyes of the institution, marked him as a man who could no longer be trusted in the company of others. And so, the great steel door of the security housing unit slid shut behind him, and the long silence began. The life sentence he was already serving was now compounded by a sentence of profound and seemingly endless solitude. In this place, he is considered a well-behaved prisoner. But the meaning of that phrase is different here. Good behavior in the SHU is not about reform or rehabilitation or the visible mending of a broken character. It is about something far simpler and far more profound. It is about quiet endurance. It is the absence of disruption. It is a form of deep and abiding compliance, an acceptance of the unyielding logic of the place. A well-behaved prisoner does not shout. He does not throw things. He does not resist the silent, methodical rituals of the day. He becomes one with the rhythm of the institution, a predictable and manageable part of the great silent equation. It is a form of discipline that is not imposed from the outside, but cultivated from within, a necessary strategy for the survival of the mind in an environment designed to break it. It is the art of becoming invisible, of making oneself so small and so quiet that the system has no reason to notice you. The camera is allowed closer for an interview, a rare and carefully managed intrusion into his sealed world, but it still remains outside his cell, looking in through the perforated steel of the door, a testament to the invisible but absolute line that separates him from the world. He speaks in a calm, even voice, the sound of a man who has had a great deal of time to think, to polish his words against the whetstone of silence. And when he speaks of what is lost here, he does not speak of freedom, of the sky, of the world he left behind. He speaks of something smaller, more intimate, and in its absence, more vast than any landscape. He speaks of the human touch. He believes it is the biggest thing they all miss, the simple, profound act of physical contact, to be around others, to joke, to play, and at the end of it, to shake a hand. This longing is the quiet, central ache of this existence. It is a hunger that no meal can satisfy. The world of the SHU is a world devoid of touch. The walls are cold, hard concrete. The bed is a slab of stone. The steel door is without warmth. The food is passed through a slot, a transaction without contact. The guards are distant figures, their hands gloved, their presence mediated by layers of procedure. It is a world that has been scrubbed clean of the most fundamental language of connection. And in this sterile environment, the memory of a simple handshake becomes a powerful and sacred thing. It becomes a symbol of everything that has been lost, a focal point for a universe of longing. To shake a hand is to acknowledge a shared humanity. It is an act of trust, of greeting, of peace. It is the brief closing of a circuit between two separate beings, a moment of warmth and texture and pressure that communicates more than words ever could. It is the feeling of another person's skin, the faint map of their life written in calluses and lines. It is a reminder that you are not alone, that there are other bodies, other lives, moving through the world. For a man who has not felt that connection in over a decade, the memory of it is a ghost limb, an ache for something that is no longer there. It is this small, simple thing, the gentle clasp of a hand, that becomes the true measure of his isolation, the deepest and most keenly felt privation in a life that has been stripped of almost everything. It is the quiet grief that haunts the silence of his cell, a longing not for the world, but for the simple, reassuring presence of another within it, a presence that can only be felt, not heard or seen. A library, built of time. When a day contains nothing but four walls, a man must build a world inside it. For Eddie Mills, the long, empty hours became the bricks and mortar of a different kind of life, a life constructed not of events and interactions, but of pure, unwavering discipline. In the deep and silent heart of the prison, where time itself can become a form of erosion, a slow and patient acid that eats away at the mind, he chose to make it a tool. He became an architect of his own consciousness, using the raw material of his endless days to erect a sanctuary within his own mind, a place the concrete and steel could never touch. This was not an act of passing time, but a deliberate and constant act of mental survival, a quiet and ceaseless rebellion against the encroaching void, a choice made every single day to build rather than to decay. His day begins in the deep, cloistered dark, long before the first hint of dawn. He wakes at 4 o'clock without an alarm, his body tuned to an internal clock of his own making. The world outside his walls is still wrapped in the deep blue of the pre-dawn, and the corridor beyond his door is silent, save for the ever-present hum of the electric lights. In this profound quiet, his work begins. After the first meal of the day is passed through the slot, he turns to his books. These are his windows, his doorways, his vessels of escape. He has been teaching himself languages, Spanish and French, and his study is not a casual reading, but a meticulous and focused labor. He learns the grammar, the deep structure that holds a language together. He memorizes the vocabulary, each new word a small, polished stone that he adds to the growing edifice in his mind. He practices the pronunciation in a low whisper, filling his silent cell with the strange and beautiful sounds of another world. To learn a language in this place is to perform a miracle of imagination. Each Spanish word is a step onto a sun-drenched plaza he will never see. Each French phrase is a stroll along a Parisian boulevard that exists only in his mind's eye. It is a way to travel without moving, to fill his silent room with the voices and rhythms of other cultures, other worlds. He is not merely learning to speak. He is learning to listen to the echoes of a world from which he has been permanently removed. It is a slow and patient process, this mental journey, but it is one that keeps his mind sharp and supple, a muscle exercised daily against the atrophy of solitude. He spends hours with his head bent over the pages, his world shrunk to the black ink on the white paper, and in that small space, he finds a universe. He can feel his mind expanding, growing, even as his body remains in this fixed and unchanging spot. His latest project is business law. It seems a strange choice for a man who will never again conduct a transaction, never sign a contract, never participate in the complex dance of commerce. But the study of law is the study of systems, of order, of rules and consequences. In a world that has been reduced to a single, brutal rule, confinement, the intricate and logical structures of business law are a comfort. To learn its terms, to memorize its statutes, is to engage with a world of reason, a world where things make sense, where there is a clear and predictable relationship between action and outcome. It is an exercise in pure logic, a mental landscape of pristine and unassailable order that stands in stark contrast to the chaotic and often senseless path that brought him to this room. It is a way of inhabiting a world that works, a world that follows a clear and discernible set of rules, even if that world is purely theoretical. He will spend anywhere from 8 to 10, sometimes 15 hours a day in this state of focused concentration. It is a form of monastic devotion, a liturgy of learning performed in the hermitage of his cell. His reading and studying are not separate activities. They are a single, continuous act of engagement, a way of keeping the mind tethered to the world of ideas, lest it drift away into the formless grey of his surroundings. After the morning meal, his focus shifts from the mind to the body. He works out, his movements as disciplined and methodical as his studies. It is not an act of aggression, but another verse in his daily psalm of self-preservation. Each push-up, each sit-up, each paced step across the short length of his cell is a reaffirmation of his own physical existence, a way of feeling the solid reality of his own muscles, his own breath, in a world that can often feel like a waking dream. It is a way of keeping the body as strong and as disciplined as the mind. And so, He has built a library, not of books, but of time itself. Each hour is a shelf, each day a new volume, each year a wing of the great silent structure he has constructed within himself. It is an inner fortress, a place of quiet order and unassailable discipline, built to withstand the long and patient siege of solitary confinement. He has learned that the mind, when disciplined, can become its own sanctuary, a room within the room, a place of infinite expansion, even within the most finite of spaces. Here, in this small concrete box, he has become a scholar, a linguist, a jurist of a world he can only visit in the pages of a book. He has filled the emptiness with purpose, and in doing so, has held the unraveling at bay. He has built a perfect and unchanging world within these four walls, a world he can control. But once a day, the door to that world opens, offering a brief and jarring glimpse of another, a world of open sky and concrete walls, a world that is neither his inner sanctuary nor the one he left behind. 1 hour, beneath the sky. Once a day, a single steel door slides open, and for 1 hour, the world expands. It does not expand into a field or a forest, but into a concrete box, different from the first only because it has no roof. The door does not open with a human touch or the turn of a key. It is an automatic process, a quiet and impersonal whir of a motor that is the only announcement that the one sanctioned hour of movement has begun. For 23 hours, the world is a small, grey, perfect cube lit by the constant, unwavering glow of a fluorescent light. And then, for 60 minutes, that cube is exchanged for another, a place they call the exercise yard. It is a name that suggests a vastness, a freedom of movement that the reality of the place quietly denies. It is not a yard, but a pen, a high-walled enclosure open to the sky, a place of stark and simple geometry, a concrete well into which a single man is lowered for a brief time. To step into it is to experience a subtle shock to the senses. The air is different, alive with a coolness or a warmth that the filtered, recycled air of the cell block does not possess. It carries the faint, distant scent of the ocean or the damp earth of the forest, a ghost of a smell, but a real one. The light is no longer the flat, shadowless hum of fluorescent tubes, but the living, changing light of the sun. It falls from a perfect rectangle of blue or grey, a celestial window carved out of the sky by the high walls. The walls that form this space are immense, monolithic slabs of smooth, pale concrete, so high that they seem to be holding the sky in place. They are seamless and unadorned, offering no purchase for the eye, no texture to contemplate. Their only purpose is to contain, to rise up and meet the vast emptiness above, and in that meeting, to define the absolute and unyielding limit of this small world. The floor is concrete, the same as the cell, but here it is weathered by the rain and the sun, a faint map of past seasons. Sometimes, for Eddie Mills, this hour is a release. It is a change, and in a life of profound monotony, any change is a form of grace. It is the simple, animal pleasure of walking more than 10 feet in a straight line, of feeling the body move with a remembered freedom, a stretching of limbs that have been confined for 23 hours. He can feel the air on his skin, a ghost of a wind that has traveled over forests and oceans to find its way into this small, concrete cup. He can look up and see a cloud drifting across the blue, a slow and patient ship on an endless sea. On these days, the sky is a comfort, a reminder that a larger world does exist, even if it is a world he can no longer touch. It is a painting that changes by the moment, a silent and beautiful story told in light and vapor, and for a short while, he is its sole audience. He can watch the slow, majestic flight of a bird, a dark shape against the bright blue, a living symbol of a freedom so absolute it is almost painful to behold. But on other days, the hour is a quiet form of torment. The exercise yard becomes a cell without books. In his room, his mind is occupied. He has his languages, his laws, his carefully structured schedule. He has a world to build, a purpose to pursue. But out here, in this empty space, there is nothing. There are no distractions, no intellectual puzzles to solve. There is only the concrete, the sky, and the stark, unavoidable reality of his confinement. On these days, the sliver of open sky is not a comfort, but a taunt. It is a cruel reminder of an infinite space he will never again inhabit. The emptiness of the yard mirrors a deeper, internal emptiness, and the silence is filled not with peace, but with the loud, persistent echo of his own thoughts, the memories and regrets that his disciplined studies usually keep at bay. On those days, he sometimes does not come out at all. He remains in the familiar, manageable world of his cell, choosing the sanctuary of his books over the vast and hollow freedom of the yard. He is alone, but he is not. From the adjacent yards, separated by walls as high as his own, come the faint, disembodied sounds of other men. He cannot see them. He will never know their faces, but he can hear them. He can hear the rhythmic thud of a body against the concrete as another man performs his own solitary exercises. He can hear a muffled cough, a single word muttered to the sky, a sharp exhalation of breath. These are the sounds of other ghosts, other solitary beings performing the same ritual in their own identical boxes. It is a community of the unseen, a shared solitude that only deepens the sense of isolation. They are all here, together in their separation, their lives running on parallel tracks that will never intersect. The sounds are a constant reminder that he is part of a system, a collection of solitary points, all watched over by the same unseen eyes from the control booth. Their brief hour in the sun, a carefully managed and scheduled event. And so, the hour passes, in relief or in quiet agony. It passes in the slow transit of a cloud, in the lengthening of a shadow across the concrete floor, in the counting of his own footsteps as he paces from one wall to the other and back again. It is a strange and contradictory gift, this brief exposure to the open air. It is both a window and a mirror, a glimpse of the infinite and a reflection of the finite. It is a moment of raw, unmediated existence, a brief and lonely hour spent in a garden of concrete, a world of 3 walls and a ceiling of sky. And as the 60th minute approaches, he knows that the quiet, mechanical whir will soon sound again, the impersonal voice of the machine calling him back, ready to close one world and reopen another, the small, grey and predictable world of his cell. A conversation in irons. Even in this brief hour of release, the rules remain. To speak with the world outside, a man must be shackled, a physical reminder of the trust that has been broken, a metallic echo of a past that can never be undone. The process is a quiet and somber ritual, a series of familiar and methodical steps that are a part of the grammar of this place. Before the interview can begin, he is brought to the door of the yard, and through a small slot in the steel, a portal just big enough for a pair of hands, he places his wrists. The cold, heavy steel of the handcuffs clicks shut, binding his hands behind his back. Then the door opens just enough for him to step through, and the leg irons are fitted around his ankles, their weight a dull and heavy presence, a constant and unwelcome companion. The chains that connect them are not long, allowing only for a slow and measured shuffle. Each movement is now accompanied by a soft, metallic whisper, the sound of his confinement made audible, a constant, gentle chime that follows him as he walks, a soundtrack of his own captivity. He moves into the center of the yard and sits, his back to the concrete wall, his posture one of patient waiting. The guards supervise the interview from a distance, their presence a silent and watchful part of the landscape. They are not here to listen to the words, for the content of the conversation is not their concern. They are here to observe, to ensure that the fragile protocol of this encounter is maintained, that the invisible boundaries are respected, that the deep and abiding caution that governs this entire world is never for a moment relaxed. The conversation begins, a series of questions and answers passed across the invisible line that separates his world from the other. He speaks with a calm and thoughtful clarity, his words unhurried, as if he has had a great deal of time to consider them, to wear them smooth against the stone of his long solitude. He speaks of his life inside, of the long, slow passage of the days, of the quiet and disciplined world he has built for himself within the confines of his own mind. He is asked if he understands the rules, if he understands why, even in this moment of conversation, he must be bound in chains. His answer is not one of anger nor of protest. It is an answer of profound and quiet resignation, a testament to the long years he has spent contemplating the logic of this place, a place that has its own harsh and unyielding reason. He says, with a level and steady gaze, that he poses no threat to any of them. He says he never really did. It is a simple statement of his own internal reality, a truth he holds for himself, a quiet and personal declaration of a change that has occurred deep within him. But then he adds, without a trace of bitterness, that he can see where they would take the precaution. He understands the perception, the long shadow cast by his past actions, by the old sins that brought him to this place. He can see himself through their eyes, and in that seeing, he accepts the chains not as a judgment on who he is now, but as a permanent echo of who he once was, a ghost that will follow him for the rest of his days. There is no struggle in him. The long war against the system, against the rules, against the walls, has been over for a very long time. What remains is a kind of peace, a quiet and durable truce. He has accepted the terms of his existence, and within those terms has found a different kind of freedom, a freedom of the mind that is untouched by the physical restraints on his body. The chains are merely a physical fact, a part of the uniform he must wear in this world. They do not and cannot touch the inner sanctuary he has so carefully constructed, the library of time he has built for himself. They are an external reality, a set of circumstances to be navigated, not a state of being to be internalized. He has learned to separate the two, to keep his mind free even as his body is bound. When the conversation is over, his hour is not. The time that remains is his own, and he uses it as he always does. He begins a vigorous exercise routine, his movements fluid and powerful, yet constrained by the weight and length of his chains. His routine is not a display of aggression. It is a form of maintenance, a way of keeping the physical self in the same state of disciplined order as his mental self. It is a way to feel the burn of muscle, the rush of blood, the rhythm of his own breath. In a world where he controls almost nothing, he maintains absolute control over the one thing he still truly owns, his own body. Each movement is precise, repetitive, a physical mantra against the stillness of his life. He is a solitary monk in a concrete temple, performing a sacred and silent rite of self-preservation. And as he moves, lost in this rhythm of muscle and sinew, his mind focused on the simple reality of his own physical effort, the small, grey world he has just left is quietly being entered, its few secrets, its small human touches, gently brought into the harsh, unforgiving light of the institution's gaze. A search for small secrets. While a man walks under the sky, his small, grey world is quietly entered. The guards move through the cell not with malice, but with a methodical purpose, to ensure that even here, nothing remains hidden. The door to the empty cell opens with the same soft, mechanical hiss that closed it, a quiet and impersonal signal that the sanctum is about to be inspected. Two guards step inside, their presence seeming to fill the small space. Their dark uniforms a stark contrast to the pale, monolithic grey of the room. They do not begin their search immediately. For a moment, they simply stand, their eyes scanning the room, taking in the scene of this solitary life. The cell is a study in meticulous order. The thin mattress on the concrete slab is covered by a perfectly smooth blanket, its corners neatly tucked with military precision. The few books allowed are stacked on the concrete shelf, their spines aligned with geometric precision. There is a sense of deep and abiding discipline here, the mark of a mind that has imposed its own strict order on a world of imposed chaos, a mind that fights against the entropy of despair with the simple tools of neatness and routine. The search itself is a quiet and practiced ballet of movement. Each guard has a set of tasks, a zone of responsibility, a silent and understood choreography. They move with a slow and deliberate grace, their hands tracing the surfaces of the room, their fingers probing the few seams and corners where something might be concealed. They are not looking for anything specific. They are looking for anything that is not supposed to be there, any small deviation from the sterile perfection of the environment. They run their gloved hands along the underside of the concrete bed, checking for anything taped or stuck there. They tap the walls, listening for any hollow sound that might suggest a hidden cavity, a secret space carved out of the solid rock. They inspect the stainless steel toilet and sink, their reflective surfaces showing nothing but the distorted image of the white room, a world bent and curved back on itself. Their attention turns to the few possessions the inmate is allowed. These objects are themselves a testament to the philosophy of the institution, each one carefully selected and designed to minimize risk. The television, a small, simple device, sits on the concrete shelf. Its most notable feature is its casing, which is made of a thick, clear plastic. It is an object with no secrets. Every wire, every circuit board, every component is visible to the naked eye, a transparent and easily readable map of its inner workings. It is a metaphor for the entire system, a world where everything is designed to be seen, to be known, to be understood at a glance. The television offers a window out to a world of moving images and distant voices, a world the inmate can watch but never touch, and yet the object itself is a cage of glass, its own inner life completely exposed, a constant reminder that in this place there are no hidden spaces, no privacy, even for the inanimate. Beside the television are the books and the pens. These are the tools of the mind, the sanctioned instruments of a different kind of escape. The guards pick them up one by one. They do not read the titles, for the content is not their concern. They hold the books by their spines and let the pages fall, a soft cascade of paper, checking that nothing is hidden between the leaves, no flattened contraband, no secret notes. They uncap the pens and inspect their simple, hollow tubes. These objects are allowed precisely because their potential for misuse is limited. They are tools of thought, not of action. They are the few items in this room that are permitted to contain complexity, to hold stories and ideas, to be gateways to the vast and unseen landscapes of the mind. They are a small concession to the man's humanity, a recognition that the mind, at least, must be allowed to roam. It is then that one of the guards notices it. In a corner of the cell, strung from the lip of the concrete shelf to a small imperfection in the wall, is a thin, taut line. It is a small and simple thing, barely noticeable against the pale grey of the walls. Upon closer inspection, it is revealed to be made of threads, carefully pulled from a towel or a sock, and then twisted together for strength. Hanging from this line are a few articles of laundry, a pair of socks and a t-shirt, still faintly damp. It is a small human act of domesticity, an attempt to bring a small measure of personal order and cleanliness to this sterile world. It is a laundry line, a familiar and harmless object from a world that has been left far behind. It speaks not of rebellion, but of self-respect, of the simple, universal desire to have clean, dry clothes. It is a quiet act of homemaking in a place that is not a home. The guards look at it for a moment in silence. They understand its purpose. They can see the simple human logic behind its creation. But in the stark and unyielding vocabulary of the institution, this simple line is contraband. It is an unauthorized modification of the cell, an object that could, in theory, be used for other purposes, as a garrote, as a rope. It is a variable that has not been accounted for, a small and quiet assertion of personal will in a place designed to extinguish it. One of the guards carefully unties the line from the wall. He folds it with the same methodical care with which he inspects the books. He lays the damp clothes on the bed. The institution does not permit this small convenience. The laundry line will be taken, and the inmate will be told that it is not in his best interest to have it there. The act is not punitive. It is procedural. It is the simple and quiet restoration of the room to its original intended state. The search is complete. The guards step out, and the door hisses shut, leaving the room exactly as they found it, save for one small, missing piece of a man's private world. He will return to a room that is the same, yet infinitesimally different, a single, small secret, brought into the light and then quietly erased. The feather and the milk carton. But in a world stripped of all tools, the human mind, in its quiet and persistent way, will begin to invent them. From the refuse of a simple meal, from a feather fallen from a passing bird, a new purpose can be born, a secret life of color and form, a hidden garden cultivated in the shadows. The search of the cell is nearly complete. The laundry line has been found and removed, the small act of personal order erased. The guards are about to step back into the corridor, their task finished, the room restored to its intended state of sterile uniformity. But one of them pauses. His eye has caught something, a small, folded piece of paper tucked beneath the thin mattress, almost invisible in the shadow, a slight irregularity in the smooth surface of the bedding. It is not a book, nor is it an official document. It is something other. He reaches down and picks it up. The paper is soft, worn from repeated handling. He unfolds it carefully, as one might unwrap a fragile gift, and inside, nestled in the crease, lies a small and secret collection. It is an artist's studio in miniature, a set of tools so humble and so ingenious that for a moment, the guard is silent. He holds in his gloved hand the evidence of a profound and patient creativity. There are paintbrushes. They are not made of wood and bristle, but of the discarded materials of a prisoner's life. Strips of a waxed milk carton, the kind that holds his daily portion, have been carefully folded and compressed over and over until they form a small, dense handle, no bigger than a finger, surprisingly rigid and comfortable to hold. At the tip of this handle, a tiny tuft of threads, painstakingly unraveled from the hem of his jumpsuit, has been bound with another, finer thread. The work is meticulous, the creation of a watchmaker, a testament to long hours of focused and silent labor, a small masterpiece of engineering born from nothing. There is not one, but three of them, each slightly different. One is broader, for wider strokes of color. Another is finer, for delicate lines. They are a set of tools, a complete and considered system, designed for different tasks, different expressions. The colors themselves are a form of quiet alchemy. In the small plastic caps of his drink containers, a row of tiny jewel-like pools of color sit like a painter's palette. They have been created from the most mundane of sources, a testament to a resourcefulness that borders on magic. The vibrant coating of a small piece of candy, dissolved in a few precious drops of water, becomes a pool of brilliant red. The powdered creamer from his breakfast, mixed with the colored dust scraped from a magazine page, creates a soft, muted yellow. The black is made from paper, carefully charred with a hidden spark, and then ground into a fine powder. The brown is from a few granules of instant coffee, saved from a morning meal. It is a palette born of scarcity, a rainbow coaxed from the grey, a collection of colours that are all the more vibrant for the colourless world from which they have emerged. And then, set apart from the others, wrapped in a small piece of toilet paper as if it were a sacred relic, is the feather. It is a small, grey feather, most likely from a seagull or a pigeon, a creature of the open air and the wide sky. It must have drifted down into the exercise yard, a random and improbable gift from a world he can no longer see. It is a message from a place of flight, of freedom, of effortless movement through the vast and open air. He must have found it, pocketed it, and smuggled it back to his cell, a secret treasure, a piece of the sky itself. Its tip has been sharpened, ever so slightly, into a perfect, natural nib. It is a pen, a brush, an instrument of impossible delicacy, designed for the finest, most detailed work, for the stroke of a calligrapher or the line of a master draftsman. It is a tool that could only be provided by nature, a small piece of organic perfection in a world of rigid, man-made forms. This small, secret collection is not an arsenal. It is a studio. It is the evidence of a mind refusing to live in a world of grey. It is the quiet, irrefutable proof that the human spirit, in its deepest and most essential nature, is a creative force. It is a force that will seek out beauty and meaning, even in the most barren of landscapes. It is the assertion that a milk carton is not just a piece of trash, but a potential tool. That a thread is not just a part of a uniform, but a potential brush. That a piece of candy is not just for sustenance, but a source of color. It is the quiet, profound, and deeply human act of making something new where there was nothing before, of creating a world of color and form in a place designed to be devoid of both. The guards hold these small, miraculous objects in their gloved hands, and for a moment they are silent. They can see the ingenuity, the patience, the sheer force of will that was required to create them. For a brief instant, the room is no longer just a cell. It is the workshop of a quiet and forgotten artist, a place where a small and secret beauty has been carefully and lovingly brought into the world. But their training, their experience, their very role in this place forces them to see something else. Their training sees not what these things are, but what they could be. In this place, every object is weighed on a different scale, a scale of potential risk, of unintended purpose, and a feather, a thing of lightness and flight, can cast a very long and very dark shadow in the unwavering light of the institution. A fear so small. To the outside world, a feather is a thing of lightness and flight. It is a piece of a miracle, a fragment of a creature that has mastered the air, a symbol of a freedom so effortless it seems a part of the natural order. It is the softest of things, a brushstroke of grey and white against the vast canvas of the sky, a thing of pure and simple beauty. But within these walls, every object is seen through a different lens, a lens ground by years of suspicion and fear. In this place, a feather is not a symbol, it is an object, and every object, no matter how small or innocent, must be weighed and measured for its potential to cause harm, for its ability to disrupt the fragile and hard-won peace of this controlled environment. The guard holds the small grey feather in his gloved hand. He does not hold it with anger, but with a kind of weary sorrow, for he understands both what it is and what it might become. To the man who lives in this cell, this feather was a tool of creation, a pen of impossible delicacy, a gift from the sky that allowed him to bring his inner world to life. To the guard, it is contraband. It is a piece of the outside world that has found its way inside, and like all such things, it is a disruption, a variable in a world that strives for absolute control. He must explain, not to the inmate, who is not there, but to the world that is watching, why this small, beautiful thing must be taken away, why this small act of creation must be treated as a potential threat. His explanation begins with a quiet acknowledgement of how strange it must sound to those who do not live in this world, to the people who do not have a keen understanding of the prison setting. The idea of a feather as a threat seems almost absurd, a parody of institutional paranoia. But the logic of this place is a logic born of extreme circumstances, a reason forged in the crucible of constant, low-level warfare. Here, ingenuity is a constant and double-edged force. The same creativity that can transform a milk carton into a paintbrush can transform a feather into a weapon. The guard points to the feather's tip, the part that the inmate so carefully honed for his calligraphy. It is sharp, it is pointed, it is, in its essence, a dart. A small, light dart, but a dart nonetheless. It could be launched, flown through the perforated steel of the cell door with a puff of breath, and its sharp point could penetrate the skin of a guard or another inmate. The fear is not of the wound itself. The small prick of a feather is not a threat. The fear is of what the feather might carry. It is a fear that is invisible, silent, and pervasive. It is the fear of a quiet and invisible poison that flows through the veins of this place. The guard explains that 85% of the inmates in this institution are hepatitis C positive, 85%. It is a staggering number, a statistic that transforms the very air of the prison, that adds a layer of unseen danger to every interaction. It means that the human body itself, its fluids, its secretions, has become a potential weapon, and a feather dipped in human secretion becomes a vector of disease. It becomes a tiny biological missile capable of carrying a life-altering illness from one body to another, a silent and invisible form of assault. This is the fear that the guards carry with them every day. It is the reason they wear gloves. It is the reason they maintain their distance. It is the knowledge that a single, small mistake, a moment of lapsed caution, could have consequences that follow them home. The guard does not want to have to return to his family at the end of his shift, carrying the weight of that worry. He does not want to be hit by such a dart and have to wonder for weeks and months if he now carries an illness that could affect him and his family for the rest of their lives. In this context, the feather is no longer an object of beauty. It is an object of profound and intimate danger. It is the embodiment of a fear so small, so quiet, and so potent that it must be eliminated without question. Here, in this small grey room, two worlds collide. They meet in the form of a single, simple object. For the inmate, the feather was a tool of art, a link to a world of beauty and grace, a way to make his mark, to create something of delicate and lasting value. It was a symbol of hope. For the guard, the feather is a tool of potential violence, a carrier of disease, a symbol of the constant and unseen threats that define his working life. It is a symbol of fear. They are both looking at the same object, but they are seeing through two completely different sets of eyes, their perceptions shaped by the two completely different realities they inhabit. There is a chasm of understanding between them, a gap so wide that it cannot be bridged by a simple explanation. It is the fundamental and tragic gap between the keeper and the kept. And so, the small, beautiful thing is taken away. It is placed in an evidence bag, its new status as contraband officially recorded. The act is not cruel, it is procedural. It is the quiet and inevitable conclusion of a logic that must, above all else, prioritize safety over art, caution over creativity. The paints made from candy and coffee are taken too. The milk carton brushes, the masterpieces of miniature engineering, are confiscated. The secret studio is dismantled, its tools collected, its work left unfinished. The cell is returned to its intended state of sterile order, but the silence that remains is now heavier, tinged with the ghost of a beauty that was briefly born and then just as quickly extinguished, a small light that flickered and then went out. Echoes in other rooms. The story of Eddie Mills, of his cell and his feather, is not one story, but 25,000. Across the land, in other concrete rooms, under other slivers of sky, the same silence reigns. The same slow clock of solitude marks the passing of a life. His is but a single note in a vast and quiet chord, a single point of light in a hidden constellation of confinement. In states across the country, in facilities with different names but the same stark purpose, this architecture of isolation has been replicated again and again. 25,000 men live in a world of windowless rooms, their days governed by the same silent rituals, their human contact reduced to a hand appearing through a slot in a steel door. They are a population the size of a small city, yet they live in a state of profound and enforced separation, each man an island in a vast concrete sea. This is a vast, invisible nation, a quiet archipelago of solitude scattered across the map. From the outside, these facilities look like any other. Their fences and walls a familiar part of the landscape of justice. But inside, in their deepest and most secret hearts, they contain these identical worlds of profound and lasting quiet. The story is the same, whether it is lived in the high desert of the West, where the sun beats down on the pale concrete roof, or the humid plains of the South, where the air is thick and heavy. The dimensions of the cell are the same. The hardness of the concrete bed is the same. The taste of the food on the plastic plate is the same. The 23 hours of isolation, followed by the 1 hour of movement in a concrete box, is the same. It is a shared existence of radical separation, a community of men who will never meet, but who are living the exact same life, day after identical day, and their individual stories dissolving into a single collective narrative of confinement. For Eddie Mills, and for so many of the 25,000, this is not a temporary state. It is the final chapter. The words of his sentence are clear. He is unlikely to ever leave Pelican Bay. The walls of his cell are not just the boundaries of his present. They are the frame of his entire future. The days will stretch into weeks, the weeks into months, the months into years, and the years into a lifetime. The world outside will continue its frantic, beautiful dance of change. Seasons will turn, children will be born, cities will rise, technology will leap forward, and all of it will happen in a realm that has become as distant and untouchable as a star. His world will remain this small, grey, unchanging room, a fixed point in a spinning universe, a place where time passes, but nothing ever happens. The only changes will be the slow, internal ones, the greying of his hair, the fading of his memories, the deepening of the silence within him. The best he can hope for is not freedom. That is a concept that has long since dissolved into the realm of abstract fantasy, a word from a language he no longer speaks. The most he can aspire to, the highest peak of his ambition, is a return to a normal prison regime. It is a strange and telling hope, a place that once represented the absolute loss of liberty, the general population of a maximum security prison. Now, when viewed from this deeper level of confinement, seems like a paradise of social richness. To be able to walk a yard with other men, to eat a meal in a room filled with the sound of human voices, to see another's face without a steel door in between. These simple things, once taken for granted and then taken away, have become the substance of a wild and almost unimaginable dream. It is a hope that is kept alive, a small and flickering flame in the deep stillness, but it is a hope that depends entirely on his behavior, on his ability to remain a quiet and manageable part of the silent machine, to prove over the course of years that he is ready to rejoin a society that is itself imprisoned. And so, this hidden world operates in parallel to our own. It is a vast and quiet engine of time, consuming the days and years of 25,000 men. It exists just beyond the highways, just outside the towns, a silent and ever-present fact, yet it remains almost completely unseen. We know of it, but we do not see it. We do not feel the chill of its corridors or hear the profound weight of its silence. It is a world that has been built to be forgotten, a place where stories go to end, but the stories do not end. They simply slow down, drawn out over the long, patient arc of a human life. They become the story of a man learning French in a concrete box, the story of a man watching a cloud pass overhead, the story of a man who remembers, with a deep and quiet ache, the simple feeling of shaking another's hand. Each of the 25,000 has such a story, a quiet and internal epic of endurance, of memory, and of the slow, inexorable passage of time. And for each of them, the memory of the world they left behind becomes more and more like a dream, a faint and distant echo of a life that was once lived in a world of color, a world of texture, a world of green, a world that now seems as distant and as mythical as a forgotten fairy tale. A dream of green. When was the last time you saw a tree? For the men in the white corridors, such a question is a doorway to a world almost forgotten, a memory of green in a lifetime of grey. It is a question that does not ask for a date, but for a feeling, for the recollection of a shape, a colour, a texture that no longer exists in their known universe. For one man, the answer is a precise and distant number, 8 years. 8 years ago, on his last journey to a courthouse, he was in a bus, and through its thick, reinforced window, he saw one. It was not a grand sequoia, not a majestic oak, but a simple, anonymous tree standing by the side of a road. It was a fleeting image, a brief, silent flash of green and brown against the blur of the passing world. But in the long, slow years that have followed, that single, momentary vision has become a sacred artifact of the mind, a piece of a lost world that he carries with him into the deep silence. It is a memory that he must have replayed 1,000 times in the silence of his cell, polishing it, preserving it, trying to recall its every detail. The way the leaves moved in the wind, the texture of the bark, the way the sunlight filtered through its branches, creating a dappled pattern of light and shadow on the ground beneath. It has become more than a memory. It is a talisman, a private and precious proof that the world was once a different color. In a life that has been methodically stripped of all connection to the natural world, the memory of a tree becomes a form of spiritual sustenance. It is a reminder that life can be something other than hard, straight lines of concrete and steel. It is a reminder of growth, of patience, of a life that is rooted deep in the earth and reaches quietly and without command for the sky. It is a memory of a living thing, a breathing thing, in a world that is static and sterile. What is truly lost in this environment is not just the sight of a tree, but the entire language of the living world. It is the feeling of cool, soft grass beneath the feet, a sensation that is now an impossible luxury. It is the smell of the earth after a rain, a scent that speaks of renewal and life. It is the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, a gentle, whispering music that has been replaced by the steady, monotonous hum of electricity. It is the vast, uninterrupted horizon of a field or an ocean, a sense of distance and perspective that has been exchanged for the crushing intimacy of a wall just a few feet away. These are the small, sensory details that weave the tapestry of a normal life, the things so common they are barely noticed until they are gone. And when they are gone, their absence creates a void, a deep and quiet hunger in the soul for something real, something that was not made by human hands. The world of the SHU is a world of the man-made, and only the man-made. Every surface has been planned, measured, and constructed. Every angle is a perfect 90 degrees. Every texture is hard, smooth, and unchanging. It is a world without seasons. There is no autumn to turn the leaves to gold, no winter to bare the branches, no spring to bring the first tender shoots of green. The temperature is always the same. The light is always the same. It is a world of perpetual, climate-controlled stillness, a long and endless afternoon from which the sun never sets and the moon never rises. To live in such a place is to be slowly, gently uncoupled from the great turning wheel of the world, to become a creature of a purely artificial habitat, a ghost in a machine that never sleeps and never changes. The body forgets the feeling of cold and heat. The eyes forget the colors of dawn and dusk. And just beyond the final wall, just beyond the silver wire that hums with its quiet and lethal warning, the great sequoia trees stand in their ancient and patient vigil. They are the silent, unknowing witnesses to this place. They were here long before the first concrete was poured, and they will likely be here long after the last wall has crumbled into dust. They know nothing of the world of grey that lies at their feet. The wind that whispers through their high branches carries no news of the silent corridors below. They continue their slow, 2,000-year-long conversation with the sun and the rain and the stars, their great, furrowed bark a testament to a timeline that dwarfs the brief and troubled span of a human life. They stand in a peace so deep and so old that the frantic, quiet struggles taking place just a few hundred feet away are of no consequence, a brief and silent footnote in their long and patient story. There is no resolution here. There is no final act of justice or redemption. There is only the quiet, steady continuation of a system and the slow, internal journey of the men who live within it. The door to the cell will continue to open for 1 hour a day. The plastic plate will continue to arrive at the appointed time. The small, secret acts of creativity will continue to be discovered and erased. The story does not end because it is a story of an unending state of being. It is a quiet, somber note that will continue to sound unheard by the world for as long as these walls stand. In the end, there is only the memory of a tree, a dream of green in a world of grey, and the endless, silent watch of the sequoias, standing just beyond the walls, their shadows reaching out, but never quite touching the place where the sun is not allowed to go. The harbour of sleep. And so the story ends. The gates of that concrete kingdom recede, and the long white corridors fade into a distant memory. The hum of the fluorescent lights grows quiet, replaced now by the soft and steady rhythm of your own breathing. Let the walls of that place dissolve. Let the weight of its silence lift, and let the great, patient forest return to reclaim the edges of your mind. The story is over, but the quiet it has brought remains. It is a quiet that now belongs to you, a stillness to carry with you into the deeper stillness of the night. The dream of green need not be a distant memory. Allow it to become your reality now, in this moment of peace. Picture those ancient sequoias, their immense trunks rising like the pillars of a silent, natural temple. Feel the cool, damp earth beneath them, a foundation of life that has been turning for millennia. See the soft, filtered light that dapples the forest floor, a gentle and sacred light that holds no judgment, no harsh angles, only the soft, forgiving curves of nature. This is the world that was always there, just beyond the walls, waiting patiently. And it is the world you can return to now, within the sanctuary of your own mind. The journey we have taken was a journey into a world of profound confinement, a world of straight lines and unyielding rules. But all journeys, even the darkest, have a purpose. Perhaps the purpose of this one was to remind us of the simple, profound beauty of what lies outside the walls we build. Not just the walls of concrete and steel, but the walls of our own making, the worries of the day, the anxieties about tomorrow, the regrets of the past. These are the corridors we pace in our own minds. These are the windowless rooms where we sometimes find ourselves trapped. But tonight, you have the key, and the key is simply the choice to let go. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your breath. It is a quiet and steady tide, washing in and washing out. With each inhalation, draw in the peace of this present moment, the quiet of this room, the comfort of this bed. And with each exhalation, feel the walls of your own worries beginning to dissolve. Let the tensions of the day flow out of you, like a river returning to the sea. There is nothing left to do. There is nowhere else to be. The work of the day is done, and the world outside will continue its turning without your help. This time is for you. This peace is your own. Allow your body to grow heavy, to sink deeper into the surface that supports you. Feel the weight in your shoulders, a gentle and pleasant heaviness, as all the burdens they have carried are set down for the night. Allow that feeling to flow down into your arms, your hands, your fingers, until they're completely still, completely at rest. Feel the weight in your legs, a deep and comforting stillness that travels all the way down to your feet, anchoring you to this moment of profound calm. You are safe, you are supported, you are in a quiet harbor, sheltered from the storms of the world. The gentle tide of your breath is the only movement now, rocking you slowly, gently, into a state of deeper and deeper peace. You are not alone in this stillness. As you lie here on the night side of the planet, millions of others are also beginning this same quiet journey. In other rooms, in other cities, under this same dark sky, a great and gentle wave of quiet is washing over the world. The sounds of the day are fading, the lights are going out, and a collective sigh of release is settling over the land. You are a part of this great and peaceful tide, a single, quiet current in a vast ocean of rest. The moon stands watch in the sky, a silent guardian, and the stars, those distant and patient fires, look down upon a world that is finally, mercifully, at peace. There is a deep and abiding comfort in this shared silence. a sense of connection to all the other souls who are also letting go, who are also drifting toward the shores of sleep. The mind may still offer a few final thoughts, a few fleeting images from the day. Do not struggle with them. Simply observe them, like clouds drifting across the face of the moon. They are not you. They are just the last echoes of the waking world, and they too will fade. Give them no energy, no focus. Return your attention gently to the simple sensation of your own breathing. That is your anchor in this calm and peaceful sea. Each breath is a wave, carrying you further and further away from the shore of wakefulness, out into the deep, calm, silent waters of slumber. Let the details of the world fall away. Let the names, the places, the concerns all dissolve into a soft and formless grey, like a mist settling over a quiet landscape. There is only this feeling of warmth, of safety, of a gentle and effortless descent. You are drifting now, floating in a space of perfect tranquility. There is no effort required. There is no destination to reach. There is only the simple, beautiful act of surrender, of allowing yourself to be carried by the gentle current of sleep, deeper and deeper now, letting go completely. The last vestiges of thought are dissolving, and the body is already asleep, dreaming its own quiet and peaceful dreams. And as you drift in this final, quiet moment, on the very edge of sleep, a gentle thought may surface. If this quiet space has brought you comfort, if this journey has brought you a measure of peace, you may wish to find your way back to this stillness on other nights. A quiet subscription ensures that the path remains open, a silent beacon in the night, always here to guide you back to this harbor of rest. And if you know someone else who is searching for a peaceful shore, someone whose mind is troubled by the long corridors of their own worries, you might share this quiet harbor with them. It is a small and simple gift, the gift of a story, the gift of silence, the gift of a gentle and peaceful end to a long day. But for now, these thoughts too can drift away. They are the last grains of sand slipping through your fingers. There is only the quiet, the dark, and the deep, profound peace of rest. Sleep well. Good night.